when you're talking about the traditional musics in general, because there is an intonation that is very specific, and just by reading it's really hard to get it. I know they say you can, but when you know, you know, and when you have it, you have it. Like, I see a lot of in traditional Irish music or Celtic musics in general, I see a lot of classical musicians that try to transition and having a very, very hard time. I also see a lot of very, very technically proficient jazz musicians trying to transition and having a hard time with the intonation. Reading alone is not enough. You have to be able to learn it by ear and listen, you know?
Right. Yeah, your ears are your best teacher. You know, when it comes to playing music, your ears are going to teach you more than, you know, you could ever see from some ink on a page. You know, these things are just a useful guide sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, but realistically, you know, and I have to admit, I don't really know Celtic music well. You know, like I haven't really studied it too much, but I do know that I wonder often, like, how do you write that down? You know, like there's just some things that you feel about it that I'm like, oh man, it seems really like if you don't grow up with it, if you don't have the ear for it, like it can be hard to understand, I think.
Yeah, it's something I can pick up very easily by ear, but I've seen people just genuinely struggle. Especially, like, there's not so much improvisation. Well, there is a bit, but a lot of it is in the how do you do the ornamentation and how you link some of the sections together. That makes a huge difference, and that makes them sound Celtic, you know.
Yeah, I think when those things are just a tiny little bit off, you know, you tend to go like, oh, what is that, you know?
Yeah, you can really tell when somebody is classically trained. But I suppose that's true for any type of traditional music. So how have you been playing then mariachi type of music all your life, or how did you start music?
Speaking of style, you know, no man, I was trained classically.
Yeah.
From like 6th grade, my mom made me be in band, like she forced me into it. And then you know, and then I was classically trained all through high school. When I got to university is when I started dabbling in other styles, but I started with big band jazz, and then eventually salsa music. You know, that's kind of a Cuban, or not kind of, but Cuban music. And then eventually I started playing mariachi because of a guy. He saw me play piano, and he was like, "Why don't you come play harp for my mariachi?" And I was like, "All right," you know. So I learned how to speak Spanish from that guy.
Oh, really?
And, yeah, I had to learn how to speak Spanish.
Wow.
And I learned all about the culture and everything, and I, you know, started learning to play harp a little bit. But trumpet style mariachi is the hardest fucking thing I've ever, like, I feel like I'm still on a journey to, like, really get certain details down, you know. It's
how so?
Fucking hard. You know, it's like we were just saying, you know, when you have a classical musician kind of playing Celtic styles, right? You notice those little things, right? Where you're just like, see, like, somebody who was probably more trained or had a better ear for the folk style, you know, would have done this or that, or would have had this feel. And so I feel myself constantly like, oh man, it just doesn't feel the way I want it to. You know, and like other musicians tell me too that, you know, I've had people tell me when I speak Spanish from Mexico, they say, "Oh, you're from Mexico." Like when I speak Spanish, they say, "You're from Mexico." And then I play trumpet, and they go, "Oh no, you're from the United States."
The fuck?
Like, thanks, asshole. You know,
It's just the weirdest thing.